Hi there. Glad you could join in today. Hope everyone's doing well. A little bit of yin today to help us chill out a little bit, but also, I guess it's also sitting with discomfort, sitting with the uncomfortable feelings and being with that in the postures. And beginning to be okay with the discomfort. So that's one of there's lots of elements to yin yoga, but that's one of the challenges in a way, I guess, is can you be present in discomfort and not sort of run away from that discomfort? And so, of course, you might find some emotional stuff coming up as we look at that today. We're going to look at the liver and gallbladder meridian lines, and those particular meridian lines are related to anger, a little bit around anxiety as well. And so with the release of those meridian lines, or the attention paid to those meridian lines, there's a potential for a little bit more compassion and softness, a little bit of an opening, emotional opening practice, but not to the point that's going to lead you on to a point where you're fragile, right? So it's a gentle practice around opening, and just notice as you're practicing, as you're holding the postures, what comes up, and then that's the thing that's relevant for you. So we don't necessarily need any equipment. If you have bolsters, you can use them for the postures, but if you don't, then you just take a blanket. That blanket will be enough today, but it's not essential either. Okay. So I'm just going to put some music on here, and if you want to join me on the mat, we're going to start in child pose. Child pose with a few elements around the arms to get into the side body. So 1 second here, I'm just trying to get this sorted now. If you want to join me on the mat, and I'll see if I can get this on. Yes, we're good. You could kneel on your blanket in child pose if that's useful, if you have sensitive knees. The other way that you could be in child pose with the blanket as a support is to roll it, actually. So you could make it feel a bit chunkier, a bit thicker. And then when you take child pose, in fact, make sure you're not at the very front of your mat, you're middle or towards the back end. You could even sit back on the blanket. That can be quite useful, actually, if you have tightness in your knees. Whichever position you've chosen, whichever support you need, and maybe you don't need any, begin to lower the upper body down over the lower body. You can use the forearms on the floor, or if you find that your hips are lower towards the heels, you can in fact lower the head down to the floor. So what I'd like you to do initially is to take a comfortable arm position, so whatever works for you. For me, that means reaching the hands back by the side of the feet so the shoulders can drape and round forward, relaxing around the back of the chest. And the head is on the floor for me, so this makes it a little bit restful for the neck, but it's not essential to have the head down. Or you can use the hands under the head instead. Okay, so settling in. See how the body feels. Relax the neck, let the head hang heavy. Maybe you've already closed your eyes, but begin to rest across your face. The eye sockets, not just the eyelids, but around the eyes. Relax around the sides of the face, the cheeks, the mouth, the lips. Release any tension at the jaw. And feeling the breath moving in and out, steadily and calm. or allowing yourself to calm if you've had a busy morning or if you've rushed to get and make some time and space for yourself. So allowing this just to gradually seep into a slower pace. Feeling the breath at the front, sides and back of the body, and the full length of the rib cage and lower back and abdomen as well. So feeling the breath around the shoulders, around the back of the heart, around the lower ribs, around the lower back, around the kidneys and lower back actually, and around your abdomen. We're going to stay here in a child pose, but you can shift and alter it a little bit to accommodate your needs. If your knees are not feeling too good, you might want to come up onto the hands and knees, and you can perform the next posture, create the next shape from a tabletop position instead. Otherwise, in child pose, what I find is it's useful just to open the knees a little bit to take the next variation of the posture. So come up a little bit, reach your left arm forward, left hand forward, and now we're going to thread the right arm through towards the left side. So you're reaching as far through as you can with your right arm. The head is tricky to position, so go for comfort around your neck. If you have another blanket or something you could place the head on, then go for that. So we're aiming to twist around the side body, stretch along sort of a diagonal line. And at this point, I'd like you to keep your left hand and arm forward, which can be quite a deep stretch in itself. So there's lots going on both sides for this posture. And then go back to your breath, which actually maybe feels very different than being in a symmetrical shape. So notice that, notice what you find. Notice how you're breathing, where you're breathing, what it feels like. Now we're going to move the left arm to another position. It's optional, so see what you think. So instead of reaching the arm and hand forward, we're going to reach the left hand, the palm facing out towards the right waist, hip, or some of you might even reach over towards your right thigh. That might allow you to deepen the twist by rolling the left shoulder back and turning the chest more to the left, but it's not essential that you go further. What is essential is that you check that it feels okay and notice what it feels like. A nice little supportive variation to this is to bend your right elbow now and bring your right hand onto your left shoulder. In fact, for me, it's a case of propping my left shoulder up. And that feels useful. It makes it more restful. But don't worry if you can't get your hand in that spot. depends how far around you've twisted before you try the added arm prop. Okay, so if you haven't twisted as far around as me, then maybe that won't happen. You can keep your right arm extended out in front. Try to relax around the length of the spine, around the side body. And again, notice your breath. And then we'll begin to gradually release, to slowly bring yourself through to center, bringing yourself into a symmetrical shape. Notice the effects around your spine, side of the rib cage, maybe the waist as well. Now we're going to move up onto the hands and knees. So before we do the second side of that posture, bring yourself onto your hands and knees. We're going to take a little stretch with the legs. So sometimes sitting on the legs and sitting with the feet tucked underneath, the legs get a little bit sleepy. So it's worth just taking a little stretch here, which is also great actually. So if you tuck one set of toes underneath, extend the leg and see if you can also stretch into the sole of the foot on that side and hold the stretch for a few breaths. And then we'll begin to release that side, taking the stretch into the second side, tucking the toes, of course, to extend out through that leg. And then releasing to move back into your version of the twisted child pose. It's a twisted child pose or twisted threaded child pose. We'll start with the right arm extended out. Remember, you can do this at tabletop position if you need to, without the hips moving all the way back. Right arm is extended, hands are down. Reach through with your left arm as far as you can and just see how it feels in the initial few moments of being in the shape. Check in how it feels around the shoulder. Back off if it's too intense. So we'll keep this right arm extended, reaching overhead. And again, settling into your breath in the new form. The breath around the chest, the ribs, the waist. The ease or challenge of breathing, actually. Notice if it feels less than restful. See if you can be okay with that. Stay with it, but not force yourself to the point of stress. Second stage, if you want to move into that, is not essential, but it's the right arm reaching around. With the right palm facing outwards, you're reaching around towards the left side waist, hip, or maybe the thigh. And so rolling your right shoulder back, basically taking what might mean a deeper twist, but also more weight into the bottom arm. So check that feels okay. Make sure it makes sense for your body here. And then if you want to add that third variation is to prop your right shoulder up with your left hand. So basically bend your left elbow and then see if you can wedge your left hand underneath the right shoulder. Might not happen. And then rest again. If you've managed to get it underneath there, try and rest again. It's quite strong. Once you've got it in place, and then the resting element to it makes it even stronger. And just a few more breaths to carry us through to the end of this posture. And then beginning to release and taking your time to shift however you would like. And if your legs are ready to shift as well, then of course maybe coming up onto your hands and knees to release the bend in the knee joint. And again, you might want to just tuck the toes, extend out, take as long as you need to allow the body to recover. And there's always that sense of relief when you come to alignment, symmetry after you've been out of alignment in a deep twist. And so there's this idea that every time we come back to symmetry, and not necessarily the physical form of symmetry, because we're humans, we're not symmetrical, but that idea of finding balance when we move away from twisting, when we move away from the imbalance, we can come back to balance. Okay, we're going to take a seated position now, and we're going to face the long edge of the mat. And so you might want to sit on your blanket if you have it, or a prop if you have a book, or maybe you've got some yoga equipment, a block, fairly high. Make it a fairly thick prop. Partly because it's nice to get a bit of height, but also because what you might see I'm doing here, I don't know if you can see clearly, is that I'm sitting on the floor, not the mat with the prop. So actually, the prop allows you to have a bit of a protection against the surface. Like my floor stone here is really hard and cold, so it's nice to have something under my pelvis. And what that allows you then is the scope to have the feet on the mat, and the heels can stay on rather than them being forward off the mat, especially if you find it's quite hard to open your legs wider. If you're very supple around the inner legs, then you might find you don't need to do that, but your legs will probably be quite wide, and go as wide as you feel comfortable in terms of what's the challenge, but obviously at the same time not to the point where you can't stay in the posture and you can't rest here. So it's like the heels are wide, the thighs are wide, and as a mirror image, you're going to bend your right knee and bring the right foot to the inside of the left leg. So your legs are still wide apart, essentially. The legs are relaxed. This right knee might be slightly sitting higher up. That's okay. Doesn't have to be low down. And we're going to take a side bend. And so we're sticking with this theme of side opening for the gallbladder meridian line. Okay, so the left arm and hand, it can reach across the extended leg. It doesn't have to get to the foot, and that's a long way away. And what, in fact, I would advise you to do is start off, we're going to do this in sort of 3 stages again. Hand reaching somewhere, but not your deepest stretch at this point. Try and stay heavy around your right hip and pelvis. And moving to the side is a really awkward movement. We don't do this kind of shape very often in the body in terms of other exercise and forms of movement. So this can feel really quite strange in the spine. So just check in with that. Try and keep your right side back, right side open, and your left hand just reaching down so far. Bring your right hand to your hip. That's a nice place just to encourage the right shoulder to stay back. And the head position, all these side bending postures are always awkward around how you position the head. The best thing for keeping comfortable is to keep the head centered to the rest of your spine, or to your chest, or pretty much centered to that. You can turn the head, but maybe after 3 or 5 minutes, you're feeling actually that's a bit awkward around the neck. So go with what feels good and change it if it doesn't feel good. So for the next few seconds here, just work on dropping down into the right side of your hip, right side leg, heavy in the pelvis. So releasing down, relaxing as much as you can around the outer side of the body. What you might also like to do is, if you find that you're struggling to stay across without support, because we sometimes do this posture with a bolster or block under the left arm, you can just bend your elbow maybe and rest the head into your left hand. And so my elbow's on the thigh. Some of you who are more flexible might find you can get the elbow on the floor and you can go inside or outside of the leg, but it's a long way down there. It's not essential. Resting the head is useful actually in the hand here. And the second part of this posture is to reach the right arm across, remembering to keep the right arm shoulder back. The arm doesn't have to be straight, but there's a certain effort, I guess, to get it up there. It's not as restful, but it certainly begins to add quite a new dimension or sensation to the side body. And if that feels too big or too strong, then you can pull it back and bring the hand back down. So as we reach up with the arm, we load up the weight in the side body, creating a stronger opening effect. And notice your breathing here. So feeling the breath in the ribs and the spaces between the ribs, gradually opening, finding space, allowing the breath to move there without forcing that feeling or action. And if you're new to yin yoga, this is quite a challenging posture, okay? You might feel a whole host of sensations, and I I don't necessarily want to tell you what to feel, but just to reassure you that if you're feeling tingling, hot sensations, cool sensations, all of those maybe combined, then that is quite normal and is what we would expect. It's not the aim, but certainly lots of people say that they experience that. Just to help you feel a little bit more comfortable if you're feeling lots of things going on here today. We're looking to open the body gradually without force and in a passive manner, really, as passive as we can. The third option here, now this is getting a bit stronger, is to rest your right arm across the side of the head. It's more restful for the shoulder, but check that feels okay in your neck. And it might allow you to become more passive around the side body and the hip, the waist. And we're going to gradually begin to move. So releasing the top arm, moving slowly here, moving really slowly. There's a lot of opening going on whilst we were in that posture. And you want to allow the body to adjust from that gradually. Okay. Take a pause with the feet on the floor and allow yourself to be symmetrical for a few breaths. Move over to the second side. Right leg extends, left knee bent. And encourage the left hip, left leg to relax into the mat or into your prop. Heavy in the body. Your right arm reaching, right hand reaching down the leg. It doesn't have to be a long way down. Staying in this side plane with the left shoulder back. We'll start off with the left arm at the left hip or waist and then settling in. And so we allow this opening effect to be gradual, which might tell you that you need to back off or lessen the posture, or it might allow you to move deeper. And so that's why sometimes taking a few different variations will help this posture meet you as individuals and your needs, right? So this doesn't mean that this first option is the easy, lesser option. It might just be the most sensible option, but it's still a strong stretch, right? Maybe you want to bend your right elbow, rest the head. You can go for that if it's useful. It's not essential. It partly depends on whether your elbow is resting on your leg anyway, and might not be feasible. Heavy legs, heavy hips. Notice any emotional qualities associated with these postures. Notice what comes up. It doesn't always have to be a clear meaning or explanation of why you're having a particular emotional feeling. It might be obvious, but you don't have to go searching for it if it's not obvious to you. Take the left arm overhead. Of course, partly the arm position depends on your shoulders. And if your shoulder doesn't go there, that's okay. Keep reminding yourself to keep the left shoulder back, whichever arm position you've taken, and stay heavy into the left side of the hip and pelvis. Check in with your breath. Maybe left arm's resting, maybe it's already got there on its own. You can wrap it almost around your head if it's useful. Just a few more breaths to carry us through to the end. And when you're ready, slowly beginning to release the arm, bring yourself gradually up, taking your time. You'll probably feel the need to do that slowly. Exiting slowly, just in the way that we entered the posture slowly. Okay. Let's take the feet forward, feet together, but not too close to the hips. So there's a space between the pelvis and the feet. The knees are wide again, but not necessarily as low, depending on how your hips feel. Not important that they go down. We're going to make the body symmetrical for a few moments. Actually, we're not holding this for too long. Folding forward as if you could move to the space between the legs, but don't feel that you have to go low. You might find you can't go low. When you're more upright, your hands can be at your legs and you can lift your chest and lift your lower back. That might be enough. And those of you who are a little bit more open to this shape, you might find you can relax down. So in this posture, you're looking to release and relax. Not force yourself low. So you can allow the spine to round. You can let the body relax, shoulders shrug forward. Just a few more breaths. Slowly, gradually releasing. Bring yourself all the way back up. And then if it's useful, use your hands to draw the legs back together. Okay, so we're going to move to lay down on the front of the body, and blanket is useful but not essential. Okay, so you're going to lay on the front, have your blanket on the left hand side, and then when you lay on your front, try to get your feet on and try to get your, if possible, get your upper chest, elbows on as well. So I'm going to cross the forearms or stack the forearms. If you're lucky enough, you can get the feet and the arms on, but might not work for everybody, I guess. Okay. So you're going to lay down on the front body, turn the head to the left, and now you're going to bring your left knee onto the blanket. So you've got your left knee at the height of your left hip, and in my case, I'm turning the left toes out to the side. But if that's not comfortable for your ankles, you can take a different position for your foot. But once you've got your leg in place, we're going to lay facing the floor with the upper body. So you might not be completely flat to the floor, of course, but encourage both the left and right side to level off and rest down onto the mat. So head turning to the left, or more comfortable for you if that's not comfortable. Choose another position. And once you get here, this is a really great passive posture, so you can just settle in, down through both legs, down through around your hips, and you can rest around the waist now and the chest, a little bit more stable. And just a few more breaths. We're going to move into another posture fairly quickly, but it is almost a way to evolve from this one with some of the elements that we've looked at already with the arms. So hopefully it'll become clear, or clearer once I start to show you the posture. I don't know how well this will translate on the screen, so we'll have a little go and see. Okay, so you're going to keep your left leg where it is, actually. You can move it around, but essentially you're going to turn onto the right side of your body. So start off with laying on your right side and initially support the head with the right arm. And then your left leg, this is where I get my left and right mixed up. Your left knee is still in roughly the same place. So roughly hip height. The knee can be bent, or once you've figured out the posture, you might want to straighten the leg, and might also depend on your space and whether you've got room to have the leg straight. But try to keep the thigh, between the hip and the knee at hip height if you can. So the left leg is perpendicular to your body if possible. I'm going to keep it bent for a minute, and then you can add the extension if you want to. Okay, So we're going to now look down towards the other leg, the right leg, the one that's underneath, and you're going to take your left hand, so left hand, right leg, just double check that you have those in the correct way, which is what I'm doing as I'm saying it, and see if you can grab hold of the top of your foot or maybe your ankle. Okay. So you can take your left hand to your right foot, connect, and see if you can let that right foot settle towards the floor. It might not be on the floor, but it's sort of settling down. It's not floating in the air. And then have a look at your right thigh. Is your right knee projecting forward, or actually it's away from your head? So your right knee is sort of projecting to the back of your mat. Mm-hmm. So this is what I would sort of call option one here for this posture called cat tail, or cat pulling its tail posture. This is a nice twist. This is a simpler way to reach the bottom foot. The next part makes it slightly more complicated, but it's essentially the same form. I'll show you the next part. So the next part would be to rest down through the upper body, more towards the back of your chest, which means bringing your right shoulder across, and your right arm can now be free. So your arm isn't underneath you anymore. And you're still holding the right foot with your left arm. And it's like your left shoulder is moving towards the floor. Now, it might not touch the floor, might be a long way off. You can keep your left leg bent, or you can extend the leg. So the extension of the left leg makes it a little bit stronger sensation here. It's useful sometimes to take your right hand now and hold the left leg, back of the thigh or on the top of the thigh. And then settling into this twist. And there's always an awkwardness around these postures for the gallbladder and the liver. And this is a prime example of that. It's definitely one of those pretzel postures. Just check you've got the correct arms and legs. I can't see you. And normally in the class I would come around and not that it's I don't mean sound patronizing, but it's very easy to get them wrong because we've crossed ourselves over when we've rolled on one side and it's all back to front. So you've got your right leg underneath and you're holding your right foot with your left hand. It's like you're twisting to your left and you've got your left leg over the top. The left leg is the one on the top. And in this case, I've got my right hand onto the left leg to help stabilize a little bit. But you can go for a different position with your right arm if you need to, if you'd like to. In terms of head position, go for comfort again. You might want to keep the head turned, maybe to the right, to the left makes it stronger, or centered, whatever feels good for your neck. We're not going to hold for too much longer. Just a few more breaths. See if you can relax in for those last few breaths here. Relax into the discomfort, the awkwardness, the sense of being out of shape, being out of balance. And then we'll gradually begin to release. So take your time as per usual to move. So releasing the legs with the hands and releasing to roll back over gradually. No rush to get there, onto the front of the body. Take a pause if you need to stop and rest, or if you need to move into a different form for a few moments. That's fine. You can catch up with the posture when you're ready. You can pause the camera too, right? The video. So you've got the blanket on the right side as you move onto your front body, and we're going to repeat all of that on the second side. So get the knee, at least the knee to hip height. You can work on that depending on how it feels in your hip. The right toes out to the side, and then forearms crossed, and my suggestion was the head facing the same way as the bent leg, but a different position if you need to for comfort. Try to settle into letting the chest on both sides drop towards the mat and heavy in the legs. And this is our starting point, but also a nice rest. Settle in to observe your breath again. And then we'll begin to evolve the posture into cat-tail, moving on to the left side of the body. So that's the starting point, turning all the way onto the left. Support the head, bend the elbow to support the head here. And your right knee is still bent at hip height with the thigh, if you can, and your left leg is extended out. Okay, so it's going to be right hand connecting to the left foot. You can hold whichever way works for you. Yeah. And then let that left leg or foot ease towards the floor rather than floating high. So don't hold it high. Notice if that's happening, maybe you can let it soften down a little bit. Might not, but maybe you can. Okay, so this is stage 1 or 2 of cat tail, but see how it feels to stretch into your left thigh, that bottom thigh. Your left knee is projecting forward. And we're starting to add a twist, of course, because this right arm has gone around the back. Mm-hmm. Notice how this feels on the second side. Maybe you're raring to go into the second or the next part of this posture. I guess it depends on your experience, right? However you associate what you associate with the feeling of this posture. Maybe you enjoy the deep sensations. We'll start to move into that next phase, which basically is a little bit awkward to get into, but you're reaching your left arm and shoulder through to the left side so that you can move more towards the back of the chest, more towards the back of the chest, but not necessarily flat. Your right shoulder rolls closer to the floor. And again, your right knee is either the thigh is up at the hip height and the knee can be bent, or you can extend it out in front of you. So your right thigh is perpendicular to your upper body, and you've got a deep stretch in your left thigh at the same time. Support your top leg, your right leg, if it's useful with your left hand. Might help it stay in place. And then turning as if you're turning the back of the chest towards the floor. And then once you get into your twist, relax here, so settle in. So don't keep striving once you've set up the shape, but instead relax down, relax down, relax down. Recheck that it's the left leg underneath. the right hand holding the foot. And it's the right leg on top with the left hand holding the leg. Notice your breathing here. Notice the effect of the twist around your chest, spine, belly. Notice how maybe the intensity of the posture affects your breathing. And then we'll gradually begin to release. So we'll begin to move the legs, release the arms. Might be quite nice just to roll over onto the back this time. Take a pause and settle to what feels symmetrical around the head, the shoulders, the hips, the legs. Initially, let's just start off with the feet flat to the floor. Maybe even take the feet wider, as wide as your mat might be good, and letting the knees drop inwards. Comfortable arms, settle into the back of the head to release the neck. And take this pause as a moment, as some time in stillness. To observe. Allowing the body to drop. So all the places where you feel the body rest, where you feel the body in contact with the floor, allow it to drop heavier, sink deeper. And then either staying as you are for relaxation, or you might be ready to extend the legs out now and be more passive in the legs. Whatever feels good in relation to the practice and the sensations that you experienced around your torso, the spine, the side body, allowing yourself to rest now fully. You can relax however you wish. If you need to bring your blanket over you, you can do. If you want to bring your blanket under your head, you might like to do that as well, or instead of. And stay settling down, relaxing across your face as you close the eyes. Releasing the neck so the head becomes heavy. Soften the shoulders, let the arms hang deep into the floor, resting through the hands and the fingers. Feel the back of the chest spread, widen and drop heavier. As you let the pelvis sink down, releasing muscles around the lower back. Relaxing the belly, feeling the breath in the body. Relaxing the thighs, the knees, into the lower legs, resting into the heels, the soles of the feet and the toes. The whole body resting down, the whole body relaxed. And then gradually moving your attention to the breath, feeling the breath rise, your attention coming back into the surface. Awareness of the presence of the body on the mat, the weight of the body, sensations, temperature. Notice elements of your space, the sounds, the temperature of your room, any smells and sounds outside the room. Beginning to gradually wake the body through moving the fingers and the toes. Slowly and gently, no rush to move. Bending the knees. Drawing the knees in to your chest, so you're laid on your back. Hug the knees in and wrap your arms maybe around your legs. A gentle rocking or rolling side to side might be useful. With those deep stretches in the outer hip and back area, it might feel good just to move around a little bit there. Hopefully feeling good after those challenging postures in the body, hopefully feeling a little bit more open or free, physically, emotionally free. Rolling over to one side, whichever side is working for your space. And then slowly drag yourself back up to reality, back into sitting upright, any position that works. Resting down through the pelvis, extending up through the spine. And feel like you can come back to center or come back to balance in this upright position. Bring the palms to the chest. Thank you for your practice. Namaste. Mm-hmm.